Roman's going to recap the Wisconsin game from an offensive perspective, preview Idaho State's defense, and then we'll take some questions. Go ahead, Roman.
Okay. Well, I feel like from an offensive standpoint, our offense came out very strong first quarter. We got points on the board pretty early in the game. I feel like second quarter, we started having some key turnovers that really kind of put us in a hole, and it makes it tough for the defense to, keep up those stops when we don't drive as well as I think that we're capable of. And then, third and fourth quarter, I felt like we struggled to move the ball. I think that we obviously saw a lot of things that we can improve on. When it comes to Idaho State, we've already started watching some film on them. From a defensive standpoint, I feel like they do a lot of things very similarly that our defense does. So, we've been kind of going against the looks since spring ball and all fall camp. I feel like that we will be very well prepared for them, and looking forward to it, and looking forward to putting the Wisconsin game behind us, learning what we need to, and moving on.
You feel, Roman, that was it too easy, too fast for how things were going offensively? I mean, did you guys get that kind of mentality, you think?
I don't think it was too easy, too fast. I think that we came out very strong. We came out with a lot of energy, and I got to give credit to Wisconsin defense. They're a good team, but I think we didn't do. I think we did a lot of things that didn't really help ourselves out. So I think we kind of put ourselves in that hole, and it's kind of hard to get yourself out of that. So.
Can't drop back the pass 42 times. You guys only gave up one sack. So how much can you build on that?
I mean, there's always room to improve. Obviously, there's the first start for all five of us on the offensive line. And I think that we can still be more disciplined. I think that we can still give more time to Kent and make him feel more comfortable in the pocket.
What's the mood of the team? Are you guys anxious to get back out on the field?
Oh yeah, we're just getting going. So I think, definitely we're not okay with a loss by any means, but I think that we're still very, very high energy. I think that we are a special team this year, and I think that if anything, it helped us come together more, and we're more excited to get back out there. So,
Give me a read in your mind and how you observed it to come into spring football, well, maybe off-season into spring football, and none of you guys had played together before, and how it all came together. Did you ever switch positions in that whole deal? Did they move you one place to another? You were a defensive lineman, I think it was, in junior college. So
yeah.
Go through that a little bit of how this has all come together, this group of five.
Yeah, it's definitely been a work in progress. So, like you said, I was a defensive lineman, and I have been since high school. And Coach Farmer was really great at teaching me technique. And when I first started, he actually had me playing left guard. Which I think was great in spring ball. So I played left guard for a little bit. That kind of gave me a basis, helped me ease into it, and get a better understanding. And we've been switching a lot of guys around too. Rob Castaneda was playing right tackle a little bit, so it's definitely we've been playing with it, and it was definitely a work in progress to kind of find how we could all fit together and be the most productive, and I feel like we found that. So
when did you move to left tackle then?
After a couple weeks into, I can't remember exactly how long. I think it was maybe a week and a half into spring ball. Coach Farmer called me into his office, and he said, "Hey, we want to move you to left tackle." And I still felt like I didn't really have a grasp on the offense, but a lot of the older guys were really great too, in terms of helping me, teaching me how to play tackle after just barely kind of getting a handle on left guard. So.
Did Utah State recruit you as an offensive lineman?
Yeah.
So you knew that was going to happen?
Yeah.
Were you an offensive lineman in high school besides playing it in JC, or how did that work?
No, I haven't played offensive line since Pop Warner. So it's a totally different game when you get to this level. I don't really consider that I had any real offensive line experience before coming here. When I was at Snow, Coach Farmer, was very upfront and told me that he thought I had a lot of potential on the offensive line. And, I bought into it. I had a couple other people who also kind of guided me along the way. And, that kind of took me out and worked with me a little bit, including, after the season at Snow, the offensive line coach, I played D-line all at Snow, but the offensive line coach at Snow, Rafe Mon, worked with me every single day for about a month after the season, kind of teaching me just like the very, very basics of it when I kind of felt like that this was something I wanted to do and make this transition. So he was a big help. Coach Farmer has also been really great, staying after practice whenever I want to help me work on technique, watching extra film. It's all been very helpful in, making the transition, which, it's not a super easy thing to do.
Were the Aggies the only one that even suggested this?
The Aggies were the only ones that really that were looking at me seriously for offensive line, for sure. So, they're the ones that kind of put the idea in my head, and I just went with it. Feel great about it too.
Do you think it helps you to have been a defensive lineman now to play offensive line against defensive line?
Absolutely. I remember going against, I was a rushing end in high school and then kind of moved to tackle as I got a little bit bigger. So, I know what works. I know what worked against me when I was playing defensive line, so I've picked up on a couple of those things, and it's definitely helped me kind of overcome the learning gap, I'd say. What I lack in experience, I can kind of make up for with kind of knowing what's going through the defensive lineman's head, reading certain cues and stuff like that.
Granted, they were playing a smaller division school, but Idaho State's defense really kept them in the game in the first half, and the offense finally got on track in the second half. How impressive do you feel their defense was in that game?
You got to give them credit, right? I'm sure we'll get a better feel for them when we see them out on the field on Thursday. But first impressions, this isn't a game that we're going to take lightly. We're not going to go into any game, with the wrong attitude. So we're treating this like any other game. We're hungry for a win after last week, and looking forward to it a lot. Everyone's really, really up.
At least, go ahead.
Did you miss, was Dax Raymond out there playing last week? Did you guys miss him?
No, he didn't play. I think they wanted to rest him a little bit more for his knee, I believe.
All right.
But I think he should be back this week, so we'll be glad to have him back.
What kind of impact do you think that had on the line?
Well, I've never played a game with him before, so
Okay.
I hopefully it will be a good impact, right? But we have a lot of good young tight ends that I think held their own against Wisconsin. So whoever we got out there on the field, I feel like we're prepared enough that they can come out and make an impact.
At least on paper, Idaho State's defensive line, size-wise, is big.
Mm-hmm.
I was surprised to 300-pound guys and
Yeah.
guys you'll go up against in their size this week. It might be the same size as Wisconsin, maybe not the same level of whatever, but
Right.
these guys are big.
Yeah, no, definitely they're big guys. We saw that. I think one of them's 320, the other one's written down as 340 or something. So they're big guys, but I think Coach Yost and Coach Farmer have us really well prepared to keep a high tempo offense, which if you're not prepared for it, it's going to get you. So I think that we'll have that kind of going for us. And even if we slowed the offense down, I think that we have some tough dudes up front and next to me, so I think that we'll be able to handle it.
You ever been involved in a game that had an outcome like this?
I don't think I personally have. No, to this, it was definitely a once in a lifetime experience. I would say, especially as my first collegiate start, playing in front of 76,000 people and that kind of atmosphere. Even though the crowd was chanting against us, I just felt the energy and was just feeding off it. So, I think that it's definitely a bummer what happened. There's no doubt about it, but it was definitely an experience.
Thanks, man.
Anything else for Rowan?
Thanks, Roman.
Yep.
Thank you, Roman.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
Okay, we got senior defensive end Ian Tongiai. Ian's going to recap the Wisconsin game and how the defense played, and then we'll take some questions.
As far as the defense played, I think we were prepared mentally and physically. You know, with Coach Dave, our mindset was there, our focus was there, and we came out with a lot of juice in the first half, and we struggled to keep that juice in the second half. Little things like our gap assignments and technique was going down in the second half, but mentally our guys were still there, but we just need to clean up a lot of the little things, and I think we'll be good to go. Like I said, our mental focus was there. Like, none of our guys gave up. We just kept working and fighting together, and we're actually hungry for a win. We're ready to go. We're watching film. We're ready for another. We're ready for a win.
Ian, if you obviously if you played against Idaho State 2014, you were there for the season opener against Tennessee that year. I mean, how similar of a situation do you feel like that is, coming off a Tennessee loss, and you got Idaho State, a smaller division school at home?
My experience in Tennessee,
Or just how similar it is from week 1 to week 2 from that season and this season?
our culture here is like, no matter what happens, we're still gonna move forward. It's always been there since I came here as a freshman. So like, regarding the teams, we don't look down on anyone. We don't look up to anyone. We try to keep them on the same level. So we'll prepare for any team the same, no matter how big or small the team will be.
Despite the final score, did you take some encouragement from this ball game?
Oh yeah, just the vibe of our team. We have a special team this year. Like I said, we didn't give up even though the score looked that way. I felt something special this year that I didn't feel last year, and our guys are hungry. We're trying to get better. I'm excited to see how we do this year and how we prepare for our next opponent.
What was the overall, what the coaches told you guys as a defensive line? What did Coach Miley say when he looked at the film and graded you guys as a group? And how many of you guys played in the game? Was there quite a few that played?
Yeah, we rotate a lot on our defensive line. We have a lot of inexperience, but I was proud of the way our D-line played. Besides me, Chris Unga and G-Mac Schuster were the only ones that kind of played last year. So I was a little worried to see how the new guys would do, but I'm proud of those guys because they really stepped up, and it seems like they knew what they were doing, and it seemed like they weren't inexperienced players.
Well, Fata started the game. I think he hadn't played. And,
Yeah.
And Wildman hadn't played much defensive line at all, and those guys are out there right at the start, too.
Mm-hmm. I'm proud of those guys. They really stepped up. You know, physically and mentally, they were preparing themselves and they got ready, watching extra film, doing little drills that after practice or before practice, like as a group together as a D-line. You can tell they really wanted to get better, and it showed in the first half.
The first half, I think the biggest play you guys ever gave up was like maybe a 14-yard pass and maybe an 11-yard run and things, and then all of a sudden they get 41 yards on the first play, the second half a running play. Did they come out of the locker room and give you something you hadn't seen before? Or was that a complete change of how they attacked you guys, do you think, Wisconsin, or what?
I think they made good adjustments, but like I said, we came out with a lot of juice, but we kind of lacked in discipline, our gap assignments. It was the little things that hurt us, and those little things turned into big things on the field.
What do you know about Idaho State's offense this year?
I know we're not looking down on them. I know they play hard. They almost beat Oregon State last year. You know, we're not looking at them any different. then we looked at Wisconsin. We're getting ready for a big game, and we're ready to play.
They had a 100-yard running back. They passed the ball for about 300 yards. So it looked like they were maybe more balanced than I thought. Looking at it, I thought it would probably be a passing team, but they look like they run the ball quite a bit too.
Mm-hmm. They actually run the ball really hard. Their running back, even though there's guys around him, he'll just keep going. So we plan on just swarming to the ball as our game plan every week and see what we can do.
Anything else for Ian?
Thanks, Ian.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Laboring
Coach
on
Matt
Labor
Wells.
Day.
We'll recap the Wisconsin game, preview Idaho State, and then take some questions.
Okay. Well, Idaho State Thursday night, home opener, and we're excited to get back on the field and find a way to get a win here in front of our home crowd. And I know it'll be a great crowd and a great atmosphere, so we're happy about that. You got a short week. We got one less day to prepare than they do, so it had to get sped up over the weekend. I think that's a good thing to get back on the field. It's also a bad thing because you want, as coach, you want another day or two of practice to try to fix some mistakes and correct some stuff from the game on Friday night. But man, a lot of good came out of the game. The early part of the game, and in terms of how we played defense, you saw us setting edges. You saw us, I think being very, very gap sound and then making open field tackles. And then you flip on the tape after halftime, and it's, right out of the gate, you have two young players that don't do one assignment right and don't do one technique right, and you miss an open field tackle, and 3 plays later it's a touchdown. And then we struggled on offense in the third quarter just to get a first down and to move the ball. And I think the getting behind the chains, you got to be able to run the ball, and we didn't do either one of those. And then you get behind, and then I think made some silly mistakes, and then you got out of hand, and so that it's a hard way to learn from a loss in terms of that. But whether it was young kids or it was veterans or coaches, we all have to learn and make those corrections, know who we are. And then this week's all about us. This is about us. This is about what we do, what we're becoming on defense, and what we're becoming on offense in terms of our personnel, who we really are, and what we do best. And I think that's the key for us as coaches in these next few weeks here in September. So we got to do that quick, and obviously because of a short week. Today's Wednesday, so go ahead and I'll just open it up for some questions.
Do you lean towards who you really are as being the first half team against Wisconsin or the second half team?
Oh, right now we're both. I said that right after the game. I want to be the first half team, but the reality says you're both, in that we're good enough to go toe to toe with Wisconsin for that amount of time, but we're also immature enough, inexperienced enough, and not good enough to make the mistakes that we make and think that you're going to stay in a game. So that has to be righted and corrected. And the first half, we got to play more like the first half for a longer amount of the game.
The game really changed in the second quarter when Jalen got, the targeting, and it's pointed out that the game changed there. But the big thing there in that period is you only got one series of really with the ball before you had it with a minute to go, and then the interception.
Yeah.
So you didn't get to sustain any. Your offense lost a lot because you didn't hardly play in the second quarter to come back when you're getting behind in the third quarter, right, in some ways?
Well, part of that's that's correct. I don't think that's an excuse for the third quarter, though, because we're always going to have a 20-minute halftime. That is when momentum started to change. Al. I mean,
For
there
offense, you meant.
well, just for the team,
Yeah.
for the game. The penalty was an early part of that, but you had, I think, 5 third downs. We didn't get off the field, and it ranged from 3rd and 1 to 3rd and really long. And then I think the penalty was a 3rd down incompletion, and it gave them an automatic first down. So there were 5 times in that series we didn't get off the field on defense, and that doesn't have anything to do to me with the offense, but I think that was the whole momentum changer in the game was that series. Then, this series right before halftime, we just throw a quick game and, you have a drop, and those things are going to happen. I thought the 3 plays after that interception were outstanding to allow them to have the ball, not allow them, but they obtained the ball down into the red zone immediately, and the defense has a 3-and-out stand to cause a field goal. I thought that was huge. At least a stop to that, but we didn't do anything in the third quarter to even build off that.
I mean, honestly, Matt, how difficult is it for a defensive player in the situation of Jalen's where the receiver crouches down as low as he does on that kind of play?
Yeah, it's hard. I mean, it's hard because you're lowering your target range, and then when the kid lowered his body based on the ball being thrown low and inside, and it was helmet to helmet. I don't think there's any question. There wasn't thrusting. There wasn't a crown. There wasn't some of those elements. Yes, to answer the question, I would like to see the ejection get taken off, but I understand the penalty. And I said this morning on the radio, I think targeting, even though it went against us this time, I think it's been very good for our game. It's been good for football. And you're seeing less and less of it. I think it's helping concussions, it's helping injuries. It has helped the game. There may be something that we could do, I think, in terms of maybe taking the ejections off. I know they're going to look at that at the end of the season.
What have you seen from Idaho State that concerns you?
Well, the first thing you see on defense is the 2 big 3 techniques are huge. Big guys that like to bull rush and really get knocked back. They got 2 really good outside linebackers. The 2 corners have got a good experience in terms of playing from last year. Those are their veterans. Big, strong-arm quarterback. And then the Flanagan kid he's shifty. We're going to have to bottle him up quick. And I think, as always, stopping the run's important, but that kid can get out and create a little damage if he gets out in the open field.
Isn't this, you spoke last week of seeing Wisconsin's defense, and it looked kind of like ours. Their Spencer Toon was around here, so it's got to kind of look like our defense too again this week.
A little bit. There'll be some elements of it. Spencer is an excellent coach, great guy, great person, dad and a husband, and he was here on our staff in 12 when I was the offensive coordinator, and there are some elements of our defense that you can see come out in terms of their structure and stuff, but he does a nice job, and to me it's not about him, it's not about us, it's not about the running back coach played here and was a GA here on my staff my first 2 years. It's not about us as coaches, it's about the players.
They have a very experienced quarterback, return their starter. How much did that show in the second half of the Western Oregon game?
Well, I think his experience showed because he stayed calm. I mean, they were down, right, at halftime, and then scored there to take the lead 9-6 in the third quarter. But and then they extended the lead late in the third and in the fourth quarter, and I think that experience showed through and for him, and that's what you would expect in a veteran quarterback or a guy that's played a lot of snaps just like he has, and he did a nice job of managing that game and really playing well and extending that lead.
We just talked to Roman a few minutes ago. It seems obvious stat-wise to only give up 1 sack to Wisconsin, that the offensive line didn't have a bad game in their first game. I'm sure you'd go back but you got to the point where you couldn't run the ball when you get so far behind. That makes it hard to do too, and things. But how did that 5-guy group play?
After reviewing the tape, I said right after the game that I thought they played fairly well, and after reviewing the tape, I still stand on that. I think they did play well. I mean, they're not there yet. They haven't arrived yet. They didn't win the game for us. I mean, but when you look at it, and all 5 of them didn't play a snap for us last year. 2 of them didn't even play O-line last year. I think that the work that's been done over an off season and spring ball, and I guess in recruiting, is you can say that it's on track right now. I think that was a positive thing that we did take out of the game, because they do have an active, very, very strong, big defensive line, and a lot of room to improve for those guys, especially in terms of communication and playing together, which is so much of playing on the O-line. But I thought they played with a little bit of physicalness, some nasty. I thought they played together. We rotated a couple guys in there to get some experience at guard. Both Ty Shaw and Dimitri Kalifu have both played. And so we'll continue to do that as well. And then Preston Brooksby will play some at tackle.
I know you don't talk about injuries unless they're maybe season ending, but can you give us any kind of read about Dax and Tahi and even Christiansen and some of these things towards
Chase just had cramps, so Chase is fine. He's back. I'm not going to talk about the guys that, if they're not season ending, I'm not talking about them. Those guys were all game time decisions, and they're day to day, just like they were last week. Though they're in the same boat this week. Tony will be out for a little while. Lindsey, again, and if it's season ending, we'll talk about it. But he'll be out for a couple weeks here.
What's his injury?
Shoulder.
So Coach, just what players would you say got their assignments, did a good job just executing their assignments throughout all 4 quarters against Wisconsin? Who really impressed you with their consistency in that game?
I thought Levitt had a good game. He played with emotion. He played well. He tackled in space. I thought Wally played pretty good on the D-line. He's going to play more. We already mentioned the 5 linemen as a group, because that's kind of how you got to mention those guys. Carson Terrell flashed at times, the true freshman tight end, and did some nice stuff. I thought Lawan Hunt was very solid. I thought Louis Compton made some plays. Louis showed up, and he can rush the passer. He changes the game a little bit for us in terms of the pass rushing ability. And then you look at Sully, and I thought Sully played well. Again, a lot to learn for his first Division I start and game for us, but he's got a knack. He's very natural at some stuff. When he learns to play within the scheme and play within our defense and what we're doing, he'll make more plays. But he's a talented player.
You were a quarterback. How did your quarterback play in the first game? What would you say about Kent's game?
I would say he just played okay. As a quarterback, of course, it's very easy for everyone to become quarterback coaches. There's a lot of quarterback coaches in here right now, and it's critical, because here's the thing: did we win the game? And so much of playing quarterback is raising the play of the guys around you, and playing well on offense. And at times, I thought Kent played well, and then there are a couple of decisions I don't like. I mean, both picks. We'll live with the pick off the helmet, or out of the hands and off the helmet, but he can't make those decisions. He knows that. We all know that those are unacceptable for any quarterback, and we got to make better decisions there. But and there's a couple other passes I'm sure he wished he could have back a little bit more accurate. But you take those out of that game, and you add a couple of plays that I wish we would have made earlier, and I think he probably plays a pretty good game. So it's a fine line for him, and being in this offense, and hopefully you'll see continued growth with him the next few weeks.
Did you ever consider just giving him a break at the end?
I did consider it, and we ended up staying with him to get another series because things weren't going real well, and wanted to see if he could finish with a little bit of momentum and a little bit of success, to be real blunt.
Was there a little momentum, even though the last pass in the end zone? Do you feel like he did get a little bit of that in that drive?
Yeah. I mean, I would like to have seen the drive extend a little bit longer.
You used the phrases earlier, immature enough and inexperienced enough, and Doug comes in here and tells us 14 starters are back, and only 5 started in this game, which is really an amazing stat to me.
Yeah,
So the goal is, through the spring and everything, to put the best team on the field.
that's right.
And you obviously believe you did that.
I do, and I still do. And, you know, we could sit here and say that I'm just going to play a veteran because he's got a junior or senior by his name and not play the better player, and then we don't have to worry about. And then I get different questions as why didn't you play better? And instead of why are you inexperienced? So it's just things to talk about. The best players are playing right now, and we're going to play them. There were a lot of first-year starters. First-time starters, I should say. That's what I should say, right? And a lot of those guys, 24 of them playing in their first game as Utah State Aggies, and that wasn't a rep on special teams or 2. That was significant reps on offense and defense. And so, you know, we got to grow them up. We got to get them better, and we got to get them better in a hurry because we got a big game Thursday night.
Sounds good to me.
You good?
Yeah.
Craig? You guys good?